Now, with the factory Starlink setup, I was not able to do this. I would get an error when I would connect, and it would say, so welcome back to GT Canada. If you've seen our other video, you saw that we recently upgraded to the SpaceX Starlink satellite internet. And in that video, we did the very basic initial setup. So you would have seen that I used this, which is the factory router that comes with your Starlink satellite internet connection kit. So this is a very, very basic router. And what that means is if you're not a very tech savvy kind of person, this router probably will serve all of your needs. It's a 2.4G and a 5G router. Setup is very easy. It's done through the Starlink app, and there's not a lot of management that you can do on this. Now, out here at the cottage, we actually have a number of cameras. One of the issues with using this router is that the cameras do not connect out to the internet, and they don't allow remote connections in. Even when I was on the local network, I could not view my WYZE cameras. So that required me to do what I'm calling the advanced setup. So I'm going to walk you through what I did for my advanced setup right now. We're going to compare speed tests and see if there's any difference in speed between this and my advanced setup. And I will just going to kind of walk you through that. I also want to do a number of other tests today, so this isn't just an advanced setup video. I also want to know, can I game on the Starlink satellite internet? Does it have a fast enough connection speed, and is the ping fast enough to actually be competitive in online gaming? And what does the surfing experience look like, and all of that. So I want to kind of review overall how the Starlink system works. If you're new to the channel, you know that some of my longer videos, I will put chapters down below. So if there's parts of this video that interest you, you can click on that chapter to pick the part that you want to watch, or you can watch the whole thing. It's better for me if you watch the whole thing, but I understand if you don't care about the router setup, but you want to know about the gaming. So go ahead and use those chapters to skip to the part that you're interested in watching. So this base right here is kind of our network command center, if you will. If you saw our other video, you saw that I pulled my Ethernet cable from my satellite dish. The dish is outside on top of the RV, and then this comes here to the PoE injector. So this is, you can see the white light is on for the dish connection side. You can see there is no white connection for the router connection side, and I'll explain that in a second. So normally, if you have this plugged in, that white light would turn on because this runs on a PoE, power over Ethernet connection. That means that all you have to do is plug in just that Ethernet wire, and that will power up the device and provide the data transfer. I'm not going to use this at all, so I'm taking this completely out of the system, and instead of having it plugged into that, I have it plugged into this. Now this is a Linksys EA6350 router, and I just plugged that in, I don't know if you can see, into the yellow Ethernet connection port. So it goes straight from the PoE injector straight to my router. Now you may be wondering, what is special about this Linksys router? Absolutely nothing. This is just a regular router. The only reason I'm using this router is because it's an old router that I had in my home. So you don't need to go and buy this specific router. I will put links in the description to a budget router that you can get that will work, and I'll put a link to a higher end router if you're looking for something that gives you a lot more functionality and a lot more control over your network. When I hooked this up, I did nothing special to the configuration. I know there's guys online that say, oh, you got to set this, you got to change this, you got to adjust that, you got to do all that. I didn't need to do any of that. In fact, if you take a factory router and just plug it in, it should just work. If it doesn't work, I will do another video that will go over exactly what settings you need to set up on here just to make sure that it's working, but really factory reset your router and then plug it in and it will work. If it doesn't work, something's wrong with your cabling more than likely. The cabling's hard to screw up. But because I'm using that router, that's why this light is not blinking anymore. That's why I'm not getting a white light on there, and that's because my router does not use the PoE. I have a power cord plugged into here as well, which powers up that router. So that sets up the router. Now on the router, I've got my 2.4G and my 5G turned on, and I also have guest Wi-Fi. And then I've gone through and set up adjustments for other things such as time limiting, parental controls, and all of that, because I don't like my kids staying up all night on the internet, so I have the Wi-Fi turn off for their devices, and that's one of the reasons why I went to one of these. The other reason, as I said, was for my cameras, which I'll show you are working in a second. I'm going to go back outside. So now that I've got the router set up, I want to make sure that I'm connected to it. So I'm going to go into my connection. So I have two, like I said, I have three bands displaying. So I have secure connection, which is my 2.4G. I've got English Cottage 5G, which I'm going to connect to now. So now I'm connected to that, and then I'm going to do a speed test just to make sure that I have no issues with my speed and quality over what the Starlink internet connection had. So I'm just going to go to the speed test app, which I have installed on here, and you remember from my other video I did use the same speed test app for that speed test. So you can see here I'm connected to the SpaceX Starlink. I'm going to change the server to Telus because that's what my other connections were when I was doing my speed test. And I'm going to just hit go. Let that go, and typically I hit around 130 or so, so we'll see. So there you can see it starts out kind of slow and then it starts picking up speed. There I'm over 100, I'm 110, 115, 18, almost 120, 120 now. So this is rural internet, so that speed is really pretty good. You can see my ping is 55 milliseconds up there, jitter of 4 milliseconds. It's really a stable connection. So I have suffered no real losses by switching to the other router. In fact, it should be a little bit more stable than the Starlink router. Now, a side note here, the Starlink router is being updated all the time, and we're currently just in the beta program. So they might have reduced functionality just to make sure that they have repeatability. So when people are complaining about certain network issues, as long as they know that nobody's screwed with the settings, then they can make sure that they're comparing apples to apples when they're figuring out if there's issues with the system itself or if there's issues with your setup. So that's one of the explanations I could come up with why they would do that like that. So now I'm going to pull up my camera system. So as you can see here, we've got 5 cameras set up, 3 of them at the cottage. So I can pull this up right now and it actually works. So this is a live stream of what's going on at our cottage right now. Now with the factory Starlink setup, I was not able to do this. I would get an error when I would connect and it would say authentication error and I'd see nothing. So you can see the deck right there. I'm sitting on it. If I come over here, you can see me waving. So this is a very much a live stream view of the cameras, which shows that it's working. Now to get your cameras working, the easiest way is just to hook up an external router. Now on to gaming. I know the question is, can you game on this? So after I got it all set up, actually last weekend, I did do some test gaming. I'm going to show you some footage here. So this footage is actually from my Twitch live stream. So not only was I gaming, I was also broadcasting that gaming onto Twitch. So a couple things that you're going to notice here. Well, the first thing you're probably going to notice is that I'm doing very horrible in this game. So this was a new game mode that I was trying. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just doing a lot of dying. So please, no judgment. If you do want to watch me on Twitch, you can, I've got a link down below. You can find my Twitch channel, GT Canada, and I stream whenever I'm free, just with nothing really to do. I love to have you join. However, I'm not very good at the game. You should be able to notice though the player movement. So a lot of times, like, the map is loaded locally, so there's no internet connection involved with the map itself. So the map should load and play pretty much how you expect that it would load on an online game. What you would notice if I was suffering from internet connectivity issues or speed issues is that the players will move kind of jittery. They'll kind of skip across the screen rather than flow smoothly. And especially as I pan around, you would see my movement would kind of be a little bit jerky as it tries to load in the different events happening on the screen. So for example, in this gameplay, the trucks are moving based on player input. So it's getting the data from the internet to decide where that truck needs to exist on that map. So the trucks are moving good, the players are moving good, my teammates are moving good, the opponents are moving good. When I'm watching the replays on the kill cams, I can see that there's no jitterness there, and their perspective of me is also not jittery, which is important. If I was playing on a bad internet connection, even if it looked smooth to me, I might be jittery to somebody else. So when you watch that replay, you can see that I'm moving smoothly across the screen as they kill me, which I did a lot of dying in this game mode. So it seemed to be working okay for me. This current weekend, while I'm filming this video, my daughter was testing the internet a little bit more, and she was playing Cold War and was playing online and was still the top of her leaderboards because there was no issues at all with the internet connection. In fact, I asked her about it and she said that it seemed just like as at home with no issues at all in that respect. So gaming is very possible on this. So if you are on rural internet, you don't have to worry about if your internet connection is going to be strong enough. So far, it seems like it's holding up beautifully. On to a couple questions that some of you may have. Specifically, you know, I'm talking about right now, well, it's summer here, right? And in Canada, it snows, we get really crappy weather. So the question is, what happens to the internet connection once you get a bunch of snow on the dish or whatever? So I have uncovered some information about that, and it turns out the dish, and if you notice, I'll show you an image here while I'm talking about this, the dish never sits horizontal to the sky. It always sits with a bit of an angle to it. Now it is fully automatic, so it can rotate 360 degrees and it can tip up to, it's got a 90-degree swing, which means it can go straight up and down if it wants, or it can go straight horizontal if it wants. Built into this dish is actually heating elements. So when it snows, it's sitting at that little bit of an angle, and then the snow will actually get heated up and run off of the dish. So the worst that you will ever get is rain that has collected on the surface, and it shows in the form of just little water droplets. So it's not a huge concern, but that's also why that power brick, it gets really warm and it consumes a lot of energy. It seems like the dish is always heating. It doesn't do temperature checks to see if it needs to heat or not. So it's always running very warm and it's consuming a lot of power. I have not noticed an increase in my electricity bill because of it, but we've got a lot of other devices on and running anyway. So that should answer the two biggest questions. How do you get your cameras working? What does an advanced setup look like? And can you game on the system? The answer is yes, the cameras work. Yes, you can game. Advanced setup is dead easy, especially for any network kind of administrator or smart techie kind of guy. There's nothing different on the setup for this versus anything else. So you won't have any issues at all like that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe down below. We got more videos coming out. We are going to do more long-term testing on the Starlink system, but we also have a lot of great videos on gaming and technology and automotive. So we'd love to have you stick around for that. You can check out some other videos over here. There's a lot of great videos in our back library, and we hope to see you again. But until next time, have a great day.